So this last week on Twitter, Marvel has been doing the Spider-Man based countdown. And I don't know what it's counting down to, but that's not what this is about. What this is about is that this countdown, it didn't start on 3, and it didn't start on 5, and it didn't start on 10. It started on 4. Who does a countdown starting at 4? Anyway, they released this image and the internet blew up. And then Alex Ross on his Twitter released this image and the internet blew up even more. It seemed like Marvel was finally confirming that they were going to do something about the unreleased Spider-Man 4. The movie that was originally supposed to be released, directed by Sam Raimi, starring Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. And then the next day they released this image and it's like, oh, yeah, it's just a countdown to something. Now this was weird because these movies, these Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire movies, are pretty far away removed from the superhero movies that we have now. I mean, we've already had 2 different Spider-Man actors since then. So what was up with all the commotion? Why all the excitement? Well, today I wanted to try and answer those questions, at least for myself, and explain why I want Spider-Man 4. So, apologies for the set being kind of a little bit boring right now. I just recently moved, and I'm still moving. I hate moving. It takes forever, and it's never done. Anyway, in order for me to explain why I want Spider-Man 4, we kind of have to go back at time a little bit and look at the state of superhero movies back when these movies were released initially. Back in the early 2000s, when these movies were released, we were lucky to get one superhero movie a year. Usually it was closer to a 2-year wait, especially between movies that starred the same characters. Well, here we get spoiled now. I mean, that's just how it is. We get a superhero movie nearly every 6 months, and if you liked, let's say you liked Iron Man, then you didn't have to really wait that long before you got to see Iron Man in another movie, because they all kept crossing over with each other. It wasn't that way when these first Spider-Man movies were released. If you liked Spider-Man, that's great. Lots of us like Spider-Man. You're still going to have to wait 2 to 3 years for the next Spider-Man movie, though. Watching a Spider-Man movie was an event. It wasn't just like going to a movie, oh, whatever. Like, these were non-skippable movies. They were huge. And even the producers knew this. And so they took this opportunity to expand what we could do with filmmaking. They pushed special effects, they pushed physical effects. Computer-generated models got way better because of Spider-Man. And the writers and the directors and actors and everyone was able to find the right mix of comedy and drama and action and feel-good movies and romance ideas to make this really complex and really amazing story that I honestly do not think has been replicated by superheroes since. And lately, we've been seeing a resurgence in popularity with the Sam Raimi movies that just kind of seem to come out of nowhere. It first started when we got a little bit of news about what the story was for the movie, and then the costume was featured in Spider-Man PS4, and then the movies were referenced in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and we recently even got news about the tie-in game for Spider-Man 4 and how it was in its beta stage. And it's like, this movie was about to happen. This was fantastic. But we didn't get it. A mixture of like producer problems and Sam Raimi wanting to take a break from the franchise meant that instead of getting Spider-Man 4, they just decided to reboot the thing with Andrew Garfield. The third Tobey Maguire film, it tied up all of the loose plot points really well. And that's not the reason why I want Spider-Man 4. It's not like The Amazing Spider-Man where they left it way open and we don't get to find out what happened. No, we know what happens to everyone. That's not why I want Spider-Man 4. The reason I do want Spider-Man 4 has to do with those movies, the 3 Spider-Man movies, compared to modern superhero films of the past 10 years or so. Superhero movies right now are always assumed to be profitable, and that's because they are. Even when the movie is critically panned and it really underperforms at the box office, it still makes more money than it took to make the movie, and it made a profit. And that's what counts as far as producers are concerned. As far as content goes, it seems like we keep branching off into 2 directions. There's Marvel's formula, which almost requires so many jokes that the dramatic moments, when they do happen, are just kind of a flash in the pan for the most part, and usually they don't stick. Usually. I know all of you people who watched Endgame are furiously typing right now. Usually they don't stick. On the flip side, you have movies, particularly from DC, that they get so dramatic and so bleak that they just kind of become no fun to watch. And that's a completely different kind of problem. But Spider-Man was a different time. It wasn't assumed to be popular. It wasn't assumed to be anything other than probably a kid's movie. But it surpassed that. And in order to do so, it had to really climb. And it had to experiment. And it had to take big risks. It had to try something new that no one was really working on at the time. And one of the things that it had to do in order to be recognized and taken seriously as a movie was it had to make the emotional set pieces way bigger. It's not just about your girlfriend dumping you and now you're sad. Oh no, that's so sad. It's your girlfriend dumped you and is now dating your best friend, and your best friend was the reason why your father never really showed much attention or love for you, and then later on you find out that your best friend was also the superhero that supposedly killed your father. That's huge. It's respecting the final wishes of the dead and trying to keep the secret of the death of your best friend's father, only to have it drive a wedge between you and your best friend to the point where interacting with him in your secret identity just doesn't work, and trying to interact with him as Spider-Man just means that he and the media are both trying to take you down. It's seeing your old girlfriend leave you because of your responsibilities and having to take a front row seat to watching that light just go out.
Parker, wake up! Wake up! Shoot the picture!
I could make a full series explaining the themes behind these movies. I mean, they were fantastic. That's a good idea. I'm going to write that down. And then between all of these really, really heavy, emotionally driven, dramatic moments, we have bits of some of the best action and fight choreography I can think of in any movie. At the time, it was things we've never seen before because they were pushing the technology so hard. And then we get some of the funniest superhero antics that you can tell were the base for the funnier jokes of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
How'd you do that?
Work out, plenty of rest, you know, eat your green vegetables.
That's what my mom is always saying. I just never actually believed her.
The point is, these movies weren't just given success before they even came out. They had to fight for it. They had to prove their own worth. Not just to the people who like comic books, but to the people who think that comic books are just kid stuff and they weren't going to pay attention to it. They had to win over critics, they had to win over parents, and they had to win over adults as well. They had to hunger for success, and that hunger drove them to be way better than they had any right to be. I want Spider-Man 4 to happen to remind everyone of the potential that these movies have to create a real emotional, substantial event, rather than fight the guy, make the joke, fight the guy, make the joke, save the day, eat some shawarma. There's a lot more to life than jokes and fighting. Like, that's just it. Life, especially early on, is complicated. It's hard to navigate. Friendships are stressed further than you want. Sometimes sacrifices need to be made, and sometimes you are denied the things that you want and the things that you need because of some of the choices that you feel like you have to make. And that's heavy stuff. But it doesn't always have to be so bleak. You can go ahead and face it. You don't have to face it alone, and you don't have to face it feeling like everything's just going to fall apart. And that's something that the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies have done. It made them relatable, and in a lot of ways helpful. And I want that magic back. I want Spider-Man. So that's my video for you today. It's not quite a review, it's mostly just some thoughts I had, and I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. What do you think of these old Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and would you like to see Spider-Man 4 come back in some form as a comic book or as an animated movie? I don't know, there's a few options out there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'm going to have to do something about this set. So until next time, thank you for joining me, have a great day, and remember to always be your best self.